Okay, moving on to our next work session, the 2026 to 2031 Transportation Improvement Program and 2026 Annual Construction Program work session. So please take it away.
Good morning. Thank you. Jeremy Provenziola, County Engineer. I have with me John McSherry and Chris Carl of our Roads Capital Programming Group. They'll be presenting, as you said, on the 26th draft ACP and the draft 6-year Transportation Improvement Program. And before I hand it off to them, I just want to share, they do a phenomenal job pulling this together. I think they will make it look simple and look easy, but every cell that they fill out in our ACP and our TIP is a team effort, and they do a phenomenal job pulling that together. So we are happy to address questions as they come up, or if you want to save them to the end, we're happy either way.
That sounds good. Thanks for your work on this, and we'll see how it goes.
Thank you, Jeremy. For the record, my name is Chris Carl. I'm the Capital Program Supervisor. As Jeremy said, only before you today is 3 of us, but there's many that contribute to this program, so we're very thankful for everybody that does. Before you today is the 6-year 2026-2031 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, and the 2026 Annual Construction Program, or ACP. I will present our program to you and in hopes of coming back on November 4th for the adoption vote. Next slide, please. The goal of the work session is to review this proposed 6-year TIP, as well as the first year of that TIP, the 2026 ACP, to adopt these programs in November on the 4th before the budget is adopted in December per state law. Next slide, please. A little bit about our agenda, some guiding principles and legalities, our flow from the capital facility plan to the TIP, our evaluation system, project areas, specifically funding details, proposed 6-year TIP construction schedule, what projects are scheduled to be built within the 6 years, risks and unknowns, and our next steps. And next slide, please. A little bit about our council guiding principles is to pay down debt service, address safety and preservation of existing assets, and then capital projects, which is where the umbrella and the menu of what we do here comes into play. Some legalities. Following various RCWs and WACs, that the capital road projects are to be in the ACP and the TIP. County engineer develops and applies priority programming. Council adopts before the budget. Council action is required to later amend, which we typically bring in earlier in the year for added projects, grants that we receive and the like. And that the TIP follows the adopted policies and comprehensive plan via the capital facility plan. Next slide, please. Little schematic of how a project gets onto the TIP, flowing from the comp plan underneath the Growth Management Act, studying the arterial atlas as well as the sub-area circulation plan. You're probably very familiar with this through the efforts of planning, which I'm personally very thankful for all that they do. They also work with RTC in putting that capital facility plan together. From there, we score our projects to bring them into our 6-year program. And then when they start, they would come into our ACP. They get assigned capital road projects numbers for the projects when they become active projects. Next slide, please. A little bit about our evaluation system. That's for our large projects, largely rooted in safety, economic development, and mobility. There's also a concurrency that goes across various scoring aspects with level of service and volume capacity ratio. We compare to the arterial atlas, as well as take on some considerations for environmental, whether we have public outreach and other agency support, as well as the opportunities for funding, which drive many of our opportunities for projects. Next slide, please. Here's an overview of the entirety of the 6-year TIP, broken out by our large capital or urban road project category, as well as our 7 various ongoing programs, 2 of which are grouped together for the first one, advanced right-of-way and urban development, bridge repair and rehab, including culverts, road preservation, rural road, and sidewalk and ADA. Their total column, total of 250.6 million as an entire program, divvied up according to the numbers in that column. But what I would like to point out is the grant opportunities. We have a fairly decent amount of grant in our large capital, our urban road projects, but our bridges, our bridges, rural road, and transportation safety do get a better proportion of grants, which we are very thankful for. So here's our breakdown, including our grants, 38.2 million of which the 87.8 in the program is still projected. That's typical. We project grants out through the entirety of our 6-year plan. TIF, traffic impact fees, 39.3 million. REIT 2, real estate excise tax 2, 36 million. Road fund, which we rely on heavily, 80 million. CAP, arterial preservation and partnerships at 4.3 million, and our utility reimbursables at 3.1 million. Next slide, please. This is the same detail of information here, but just in a pie chart, as well as putting in percentages, as well as the amounts. I would like to point out that the colors of this pie chart will differ from the colors on the ACP, which we just recently discovered as we were reviewing our thing. However, we added this, and this was John's idea, to add both the amounts and the percentages on this slide. So I'd like that we bring them both together here. And the ACP will be on the next slide, please, Rebecca. Similar breakdown here. This is looking specifically only at the first year. So I would like to point out that we did get, thankfully, 10.3 million of additional grants. That was not brought to you last year at this time. It's typical. Sometimes we do get a little bit extra from our maximums, which we've had previously, thankfully. So that 10.3 is in addition to any maximum that we would have been able to receive. And that's why you see the 25.8 out of the 52 million of what's projected in 26 to be coming from grants. That was 10.3 million for our 179th Street at 29th Avenue project that received an additional 8 million. 152nd Avenue from Padden to 99th Street that received an additional 2.2 million. And our Highway 99, 102 to 104th Street project received 100,000 extra, which was all it could take on. So we're very thankful for that additional funding. Next slide, please, Rebecca. Same data here in pie chart format. Again, the colors are different, but the grants, about half of the current 2026 budget. So we're thankful for that. And next slide, please. And this is where I'll turn it over to John to go over the estimated schedules within our 6-year TIP. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Chris. My name is John McSherry. I'm a Senior Capital Program Specialist, and I'm going to talk about our construction schedule for our capital projects. So this first slide here is shows the projects along the 179th Street, which go from Delphel out to 50th Avenue. And the numbers that are in orange are the project total costs. These are our largest capital projects on our in our TIP. We have just started the 179th at 29th Avenue project. That's the one on the top of the list, and that's scheduled to go for the next 2 years. And after that, we have the segment between 15th Avenue and 26th Avenue coming up, and that will include a roundabout at 15th Avenue. The next project is the stormwater facility that actually is being used by that project, plus the 15th Avenue project and the Delphel Road project. And that project needs to be in place for those projects to be constructed. The next project down the list, the 15th Avenue project, will extend 15th Avenue up to 10th Avenue. 10th Avenue essentially is going to be closed down when the WASDOT redoes the intersection of 179th and I-5. So this 15th will relocate that. The Delfell Road, similar. It's currently offset, and we're going to move the leg that's adjacent to the highway over to the Delfell that serves the fairgrounds, and that will be a roundabout also. The 179th from 29th to 50th is the next segment that will go from 29th to 50th, and that one is scheduled at the horizon of our 6-year plan. So it actually is partially in this in the 6-year tip, but extends beyond it. And then we have 10th Avenue to 15th on 179th, which is also going to be integrated into the same time frame as WASDOT's redoing of the I-5 intersection. Next slide, please.
Oh, I just have a quick question. Where will the Whipple Creek Stormwater Facility, where will that be located? On 179th and?
In where 15th is right now. So Whipple Creek passes to the east of 15th right now. And so it'll be right by Whipple Creek. There's a bridge there, and sort of when it dips down to the lowest point there before it goes up the hill.
Thanks.
And yeah, just east of 15th Avenue and on the south side of 179th.
Oh yeah, on the south side.
Also, Chair, are all these projects dependent on the first project? Is that why they don't get started till 2028?
Pretty much, yes. The elevation of 179th in front of 15th Avenue specifically, right in front of the storm pond, needs to be brought up in elevation to allow the gravity to flow. Otherwise, it would flow over existing elevation right now. So it has to be built up. That project will drive the schedules of the others.
Okay. So I'm somewhat familiar with this area, right? So my district is East Vancouver. So I don't know a heck of a lot of what's going on, but it seems like we're allocating a lot of resources. So I guess my question is, are we planning, and there seems to be increased urbanization in that area. Is this what's happening? You're allocating, we're allocating resources. We're building a lot of infrastructure. Do we anticipate more urbanization over the next few years in this general area?
Yes.
Yes, I don't know if Jeremy wants to extend on what I'm going to answer, but yeah, after the urban holding was lifted, that allows more development. But the roads that will go in to serve this will then spring other roads that development will be putting in. So,
And now, is this within the Vancouver UGA or is it outside the Vancouver UGA?
this is within.
It's within. Okay, got it. I don't see the boundaries on this map. On this
Yeah,
map.
it is just north of here now, but yeah, recently in the last decade had shifted or changed.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide. Okay, these are a couple more large capital projects, and then we'll look at some of our ongoing projects. This is the 152nd Avenue project from Patton to 99th Street. Chris mentioned that we did get some additional grant funding for that, and that just we've just bid that project, and we're getting ready to award it and start before the end of this year, and then it's scheduled to go for the next 2 years. Northeast 72nd Avenue project from 122nd out to 133rd is on the horizon of the capital, the 6-year tip, and but we will be starting that in 2031. Next slide, please. These projects are on our ongoing program list. And the largest program, I believe, the Bridge and Culvert program, is on the top here. We've got bridges at Daybreak and Matney, Whipple Creek, Whipple Naps Carson Bridge bundle. That project is started this year. And then the Mason Creek barrier improvement, which is a fish passage program. Those are scheduled for 2027 and 2028 through 2029, retrospectively. Then we have our road preservation projects. We have Sunset Falls a chip seal project from Dole Valley out to Sunset Campground. That's a federal facilities access program funded grant. It accesses the Gifford Pinchot, and that's just wrapping up right now. The Northwest 78th Street project is a 1.1 mile HMA overlay that we funded with a National Highways System Asset Management Program grant that we also used to fund the St. John's Road pavement improvement project, which is out to bid right now, and we'll look to be starting by the end of the year. That project will work with the concrete panels on St. John's Road. And then we have the Blair Road project, which is out by Washougal River Road, starting next year. Next slide, please. On the rural road improvement project schedule, we have 182nd Avenue at Risto Road, and that's an overlay project between 176th and the J.C. Ward Bridge, which is on 182nd. And there's going to be a roundabout installed at 182nd in Risto, and that project is out to bid right now, and will start next year. And be completed next year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the Blair project and just describe it? Is it that T with the Washougal River Road, and is it an expansion of it, or what is the project?
Do you have any details on that one? That's not one.
It is a tough
Blair.
intersection.
Yeah, the Southeast Blair Road project, that was the question?
Yeah, is it at the T there?
Yeah, it is going to go all the way to Washougal River Road. So the previous segment of that project was named Northeast Blair Road, and that did the western end of that road. So it's going to carry on from those improvements of the Northeast project.
Is it widening the road? Or?
No, it'll address the fog line maybe, but it's not putting in.
Okay.
It'll widen it to maybe to some degree, but not as a widened.
Do you recall if it's a 2R or 3R?
I'm not sure. No.
It's essentially a rehab and repair project.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide. Okay, so the sidewalk ADA compliance projects, we have the 68th Street sidewalk project, which is complete this year, and the Highway 99 sidewalk project, which goes from 102nd up to 104th. It turns the corner there and goes up the hill a little bit. And that project has been bid awarded and is under construction currently. The Truman School sidewalk project is scheduled for late next year. And then the Highway 99 sidewalk project, which goes from 1/10th down to 1/17th, is under design right now, but won't be constructed until 2028. Next slide. These are on the transportation safety improvement projects on our ongoing programs. The 119th at 152nd intersection, which is a roundabout project, completed this year. And the Ward Road Davis intersection, which is also a roundabout, is under design right now and will be out to bid in 2027. Next slide, please.
John, may I
Yes.
step in for a moment here?
Sure.
I just wanted to, I don't want to jump around on the slides here, but I did want to get back to Councilor Fuentes' prior question on the corridor. Just to clarify, the comments about urbanization, that is correct. It is an urban corridor, and we are working to keep up with that to meet concurrency. But in terms of the resources being allocated, I did want to just highlight this team's done a phenomenal job. If you look at slide 7, not that we have to jump back to it now, but they've done a phenomenal job securing state and federal grants to support a lot of that funding. And in fact, the county road fund contribution is less than 10% of that urban road improvement line. And in a lot of respects, the development that is occurring is paying for those improvements through the application of TIF.
No, thanks for thanks for clarification. I certainly wasn't suggesting that it's a bad thing we're allocating resources to this area. I think
Right.
it's great. I mean, I was just curious because I'm not familiar with that region. I don't live out there. I don't drive out there. And so I know that regardless of where the financial resources are coming from, we're allocating resources to the development and the infrastructure of that area. So I was curious what that future looks like around there.
Right, absolutely. And I appreciate the opportunity to highlight all the work they've done to secure a lot of those
Yeah, thank you.
leveraging opportunities. So
Edie Hovey did do a report on the economic development, both from the Discovery Corridor and all the housing development of that area. That might be something interesting to look at.
I'd be interested in looking
Yeah,
at
can
that.
you repeat that?
It was an economic development study done by Edie Hovey. They're a consultant firm that specializes in that. They did that for us, but it identifies like how many housing starts there will be and how much commercial and industrial development will occur as a result of the lift of the.
Yeah, it was done years ago in studying this whole area, but we could get that to you if you're interested.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I'd love to see it. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
before we go any further, I do want to point out that this is not the entirety of all of our projects that fall under our capital program. These are just some of the more larger ones. For
Mhm.
example, our preservation projects, our HMA hot mix asphalt overlays, ramp designs and ADA ramps, as well as guardrail, bridge rail programs are annual. They're not here. Some smaller school sidewalk grants that we received, as well as some smaller transportation safety improvement program projects for a few that are not in this tip. But
I
you'll
just
see
wanted
those.
to keep on the flow of the 179th questions. I was elected in the middle of this too, so I just have some more questions. Just big picture vision, what you're trying to do with the corridor. Are you trying to increase flow? Are you adding lanes? And with concurrency, could you describe a little bit about that especially for the public that's listening and don't know what that word might mean?
yes, that's essentially correct. We are adding capacity and multimodal opportunities to support the corridor and all the development that's occurring through there.
And what is the concurrency requirement as far as you know? To
Yeah.
meet with population goals and
Yeah, that it's a good question, and I don't feel like I'm well equipped to address it right now. But to oversimplify, yes, it is our responsibility on concurrency to provide the facilities to support the development as it occurs. Yep.
I would just suggest that this is a much bigger and more complex issue and would be good for us to hear more about concurrency and the infrastructure needs related to the comp plan and what's being proposed. Because it seems like the infrastructure needs often comes at the end of a very long planning period. And I think it'd be good for the council to understand what those impacts may be. And Chris is getting ready with the button, but it's just frustrating really to, we'll be thinking about these, where to expand or not expand without fully understanding what the impacts will be. And I think that was very much the case with 179th when that urban holding was lifted. That's a whole very complicated response in terms of the road improvements that are needed because of that. But Chris, go ahead.
I'm not sure I have all that much to say, but it is a GMA requirement that in order to make something urban, to make land urban, you also have to plan for and fund the facilities that are required for urban development. So much of the 179th area was actually brought into the urban growth boundary 21 years ago, 2004. And it was kind of out in the countryside in, excuse me, in many ways. And so an urban holding overlay was placed upon it that didn't allow urban development until those facilities, though in particular, the transportation facilities, were planned and funded. That's the most essential requirement I can think of for concurrency. Urban holding was lifted when the plan to construct those facilities and fund them was adopted. And there we are. It's been, in a legal sense, urban for a long time now without any ability for urban development to occur there. Urban development is expected to occur there now.
That's super helpful.
God.
What you said, I think, is that urban development is not allowed until the infrastructure is approved and funded. Does that mean that certain developments have been occurring before the actual construction happens? Is there something?
Yes.
Course before the. Yeah, okay.
You don't have to have a road to nowhere, as it were, but it should be at least concurrent with the development. So development is occurring while the transportation system is being planned, funded, and built.
And Councillor Little, your comment or question kind of strikes precisely to the unique challenges along the corridor, it has been massively impactful to the constituents out there because it is all kind of crashing in on them at once. So developments, developments, utilities, and our capital improvements to go along with all of that is all occurring concurrently, and it's been tremendously impactful to the folks that live out there.
And are there any solutions that the county council has, or any tools to fix this long-term for future developments? Is it state law that's creating this disconnect? Okay.
Well, state law tries to address the disconnect and says, don't do it if there's a disconnect. If you're not going to be able to build the facilities there that are needed, if you can't provide the infrastructure that's needed, if you won't be able to, then don't call it what you can't make it. Does that make sense?
Starting to understand. Thank you.
Good.
Chair, I guess, my question to this group, because I know you're not responsible for urban design and layout. That's Dr. Oriako's team, right? But my curiosity was, because you're putting in this infrastructure, I'd be curious to see what our planning department envisions this urban area looking like in 10, 15 years. Right. Right now, as it stands, it's a lot of residential, a lot of suburban neighborhoods. Right. I'd like to see how it's going to evolve over the next 15 years. That's not up to you guys. Right. You build the road. So that's where my question lies. So now that I can go back to Dr. Oriako and ask him what his vision is, or what his team's vision is for the next 10, 20 years as we continue to develop this area within the UGA, which will eventually become part of a larger city.
That is correct. We essentially are on the implementation end of what is occurring early on in community planning. And frankly, what it looks like now, or at least a couple years ago, it looked rural. And now it's just a patchwork of developments as they're coming in.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Councillor Fuentes. Planning looks at it with, they like to call the 30,000-foot view. So, you know, something might be zoned residential or zoned employment or have a plan like that, but they don't envision the development. That's up to the property owners.
And many of those property owners still envision that they're living in a rural area. So it's going to
Well-
be it's a very difficult project. And ultimately, decisions are made, they're political decisions. And I think that was part of the problem with moving 179th forward when it went forward.
Sure. I got a couple questions related to specifically this area. One is so with the tip that's proposed here, in terms of concurrency, does this push the limit? Does it really maintain true concurrency, or is it like aggressive development that will really, give the capacity for that growth to take place out there? What would you say this would be?
I'll take a crack at that, at least as I understand the question. We have some flexibility in how those improvements play out, but essentially we are building the corridor for build out conditions structurally, but it might not look like that immediately. So,
Right.
For example, 179th and 50th, we didn't have to build that out because we believe the stop control improvements that we did last summer should serve it for 15 or 20 years sufficiently. The corridor itself, the roundabouts, structurally, those are being built for build out conditions, but they might be striped and channelized for a smaller or a lighter traffic condition, if that makes any sense.
Okay. And I noticed Ken came up too.
Yeah, for the record, Ken Lader, Public Works Director. Just to add to that, I want to talk about the intersections versus the roads in between them, because as far as concurrency and the volume of traffic that we need to support for the new developments, the intersections are really the points where we have failure or difficulty meeting those volumes for concurrency. So that's why you'll see we're moving ahead also with the intersection at 29th and 179th initially. The roads in between don't have that same volume concern when we look at concurrency or the needs of the development in the timeline. So we can stay concurrent with doing the intersection improvements, which is why we did the minor improvement at 50th initially. Now we're moving to 29th. We'll do that segment that's more heavily loaded towards the interchange and 15th next, and then work our way back out. So,
Okay. Engineering subjectivity. I'm asking for a subjective answer here. Like, do you really feel, are we doing the bare minimum? Are we right there in the ballgame, or are we actually being proactive in facilitating all that development?
I think objectively we are meeting our concurrency needs. Yes, for the corridor, that's not a concern for me. My opinion, my subjective opinion about whether we should be in this situation with the decisions that were made, we should have been ahead of it, but we're not. So, I would definitely say.
Are we bare minimum?
How do you mean that?
Well, I'm just trying to understand. It's subjective, right?
Yeah.
There are some legal requirements that you can say, but really the idea is, are you providing the infrastructure needed to facilitate the development that is coming? But you can just barely meet that, or you can very comfortably meet it, or you can be really aggressive and be ahead of the curve. And that's just kind of what I'm not saying either way is right or wrong. I'm just trying to understand.
I will say we're comfortably meeting the need
Okay.
for the demand, and we will stay concurrent. And because we're doing the construction at the same time that these developments are going on, it doesn't look that way on the ground, and it wouldn't look like that to me if I lived there either.
Okay,
So,
great. Thank
yeah.
you. That was what I was looking for. And then just real quick thing, maybe you could email us afterwards. The 10% stunned me, to be honest with you. I think that's the first time I've heard that. I always assumed that there was going to be a lot of road funds involved in these projects. So could you send like a percentage breakdown to us for the 179th project specifically in terms of percentage of where that funding is coming from?
Sure.
I'd
Yeah,
be really interested to see that.
Yeah, we'd be happy to. And that statement was based on the figures shown in slide 7 on this presentation, which includes the whole urban.
Yeah, I
improvement.
looked back at that when you mentioned that, but I wasn't getting it from that page. So if I don't think we need to spend more work session time on it, but if you could just kind of just really quickly percentages, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll look at those numbers for you. And just to bring it all home, in addition to the urban growth aspect, John mentioned a couple of things, working with partnership with WashDOT with what they're doing with their extensive interchange at 179th Street off of I-5. We're not only going to widen that corridor, including the intersections, multiple roundabouts throughout there, but we will have bike ped facilities, including a shared use path. But John mentioned the closing off of 10th Avenue, which will alleviate some traffic in and around that interchange, as well as aligning Delfell further west on the west side of I-5. That'll bring that currently disjointed or disconnected connection between Delfell from the east, north, and south, excuse me. So that'll serve multiple things in addition to just the urban growth piece as well. Jeremy mentioned that we will be building the width to allow for future expansion or two-lane travel in both directions, as initially it'll only be set up with intermittent right turns. So that dual lane could always be expanded in the future.
And not to belabor this, but since we took this side track down concurrency, there is a timeline related to concurrency. And I think generally the public, I think that's 6 years, the public does not understand concurrency as you've explained it. That's not how they understand it. And that the payment, as the developers pay, that occurs as development happens. And there's no clear timeline on when any of these property owners will decide to develop their property. I've described 179th as a case study in many ways of what not to do. And I think as we have an opportunity to learn from this site going forward, related to adopting the comp plan and looking at urban holdings and concurrency and really doing things in a better way as we move forward. So thank you.
I think that's precisely correct. And to reiterate Ken's comment, yes, we are objectively meeting concurrency, and it might not feel that way to the folks that are impacted by the work. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we have a few more pages of
Yeah.
presentation?
Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. So what I wanted to talk about was some of the highlights, some of the successes that we've had. And this shows the projects that we've completed in 2024. There's a little more in depth on the 119th, 152nd on the next slide. If you go to the next slide. These are actually, it's not the next slide. But I'll talk about it when we get to it. These projects here are this one at 130th was pedestrian improvements at 76th Avenue, the high school, the Heritage High School, and at the Padden Parkway crossing. And they were improving the ADA access and the signing and striping for pedestrian crossings. And we put a rectangular flashing beacon at the high school. And we also upgraded and relocated to code the school flashers for the Heritage High School. The next project down, what we had just mentioned this, is the intersection at 179th and 50th. In this one, we upgraded this to include a turn lane for 50th on 179th and to help with the development that's going on there. It's a four-way stop. Next slide. And then here we are at 119th, 152nd. This was a success story where we replaced a signalized, signal-controlled intersection with a roundabout. It was a safety improvement project funded by HSIP, which is the Safety Improvement Program, a federal program. It enhanced safety for all modes of transportation, installed multi-use pathway and sidewalks, crossings, and also improved the infrastructure in the area. Next slide. So this shows the pedestrian improvements, installing the multi-use pathway on all sides of the intersection, and the improvements to the pedestrian crossings through the roundabout. Next slide, please. And the infrastructure improvements also included utility improvements to the area, which included upgrading the water and the sewer through the project site. The electrical telecommunication infrastructure capacity was increased for future development, and the stormwater management at the site was improved to meet current regulatory standards. Next slide, please. And then these projects are the ones that are being completed right now. The first one on this list is the 68th Street sidewalk improvement, which replaced 1.34 miles between Highway 99 and St. John's Road on the south side of 68th Street with a 6-foot wide continuous sidewalk. Improvements along the way include like this wall here, this retaining wall, and ADA access signing and striping. There was also a rapid rectangular flashing beacon that was installed at the top of this hill to improve the safety of pedestrian crossing, and there was another crossing installed at the park further down the road. But signing and striping for improving bike and pedestrian safety. Next slide, please. The 78th Street project, I had mentioned that one earlier. This one improved. This is a 1.1 mile HMA overlay, include improving all of the ADA access on those ramps, street crossings. We also improved the intersection at Northwest Lakeshore Ave and at Hazeldale Ave. I think is it Lakeshore Road? I'm not sure. Anyway, and then we also improved the intersection of 9th and Northwest 78th Street, and this road goes to I-5 and is considered by the federal feds as a state significant access point road system, part of the system. The Northwest Bliss Road at Northwest 139th was a school zone safety improvement project, and improved the crossings with an RRFB, a rapid flashing blinker, and signing and striping for pedestrians and cyclists, and also installed some sidewalk where there were none. Next slide, please.
John, could I jump in there real quickly for Bliss Road?
There's
We met with the public out there. We had about 100 people before we did that striping. It was pretty controversial. We really related to them the safety aspects of what we were trying to do with the restriping. One of the things that came up is like, well, why can't we get more money in this section, in this corridor, to actually do more crossing work to make it safer or get some flashing beacons? So I was hoping that John, maybe you or Chris could expand on the grant money that we just that we have offered now to do some of that work.
Additional work.
If you're familiar with it, I can wing it otherwise, but yeah.
In what sense? We did receive some funding through various things for these, and another one on the way.
Yeah, so just that what the community was asking for, we were able to reach out to RTC and talk about the corridor needs, and we have some funding now that looks like it's going to be available to do exactly that with the area. So
Yes, and we're just starting that up.
yeah.
Just
All right, sorry to interrupt.
additional work at that site.
And
That's it for those slides.
So before I wrap it up, I did want to make sure that you do have the reports in front of you, the ACP, the TIP, and the OGP, because what I did here for the presentation was the summarization of that. So if there are any questions with the reports itself, you could either reach out to us or ask now. But going back to the presentation, if we could, so the risks and unknowns is the possibility of additional grants if they're awarded late. Typically, we don't have much uncertainty with 2026. It's more in the latter years of our TIP. Also, project delivery of awarded grants. Once we receive a grant, we have a commitment to either deliver the PE, the design, or the construction phase as well. We typically do very well with delivery, so that's allowed us to get the additional funding that I mentioned earlier, for instance. Volatility of TIF, traffic impact fees. We pretty much forecast what we expect, and it's been conservative, so I don't see any issues there. And we reassess the TIP, the revenues and expenditures throughout the year. Today just being a little different in the fact that we're bringing something now to council, but we typically update throughout the year. And next slide, please. And as Jeff had shared a similar schedule, we had the opportunity to bring this program before both the Planning Commission in August, as well as DEEB, Development Engineering Advisory Board, in September. Now here before council's work session on the 15th, and coming back requesting for the adoption on November 4th. And I think that ends the presentation, and we could turn over to questions for the public and anybody that's interested. You could go to this website for more information, and including the entirety of our TIP book, if you as you will, online, and how we score our projects and the like, as well as these reports before you today. Any questions, council?
Go ahead, Councilor.
Yes, a couple quick ones. The first one is, and then while we're doing this one, Rebecca, could you go back to slide 4? But so with particularly 179th, but really essentially any urban projects, are you going to the city of Vancouver for feedback? I mean, it is going to be in the city of Vancouver ultimately, and I'm curious what that communication loop looks like.
Ken, do you want to address this one with recent discussions?
Yeah, sure. Councilor Young, so I meet regularly with the Public Works Director for the city, who's Steve Wall. He replaced Steve Worley, who recently retired. But these are general conversations that we have surrounding annexation, surrounding road standards. We have agreed to and just started the process of kind of reviewing our road standards against some of the city's concerns. You heard Lon about a month ago come before you talking about annexation, and the city manager mentioned how difficult it is when we build a road and it's not to their standards. Steve couldn't tell me what that was related to, and I still don't know. So, well, it might be streetlights. We're not going to add streetlights to our infrastructure, especially in these areas. And there are several reasons for that, which we could get into or not. But I think probably the main reason that they're seeing that they're concerned about it is we still have old road sections that are in the urban growth area that didn't have the sidewalk standard back when they were built or developed. The frontage wasn't developed. We don't do that any longer. I mean, frontage requirements now allow for the sidewalk and multimodal. But there are those kinds of things that we work with them regularly on. But I would also say when there are particular projects that are at the interface between what's the city boundary and county right now, we do kind of up our effort to work closely with Ryan Laposa in their transportation division and see what issues we might have. We have some projects where we're partnered with the city as well, like the Burnt Bridge Creek expansion, the trail expansion on Hazeldale Ave, things like that. So yes, and I wouldn't say it's formally structured that way, other than we just try to keep that communication high where we can. So.
Okay, I think there's going to be continuing conversation on this, but I do believe, you know, it is, I believe, in everybody's best interest to try to make it work, because I mean, ultimately the city has taken so long to annex specifically because of some of these reasons and the expense that they would have to retrofit a lot of the infrastructure. So I think this is an important discussion that we'll continue to work on. And then slide 4, I am curious, so when you say the council guiding principles, number 1 is debt service, can you explain, is that it just saying that we're going to pay our debt obligation first, or are we paying aggressively on those obligations more than we're required to pay? What does that mean when number 1 priority is debt service?
Yeah, that's just an existing slide that I've always spoke on, but right now I'm not sure that we have any debt, like a loan, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sorry, I believe we do have some debt service, but I don't think it's significant related to the county road fund. I could be mistaken though. We'll look into it and get back to you.
Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, not to derail, but I would like to learn more about the lights issue, if you can summarize shortly.
I will tell you, this is a discussion I have with Lon, which is basically the infrastructure. If our the Public Works Department is building a road and then they annex, then they have to come in and tear up the new road to put infrastructure in there for streetlights. So there may be opportunities that when we're building the road, not necessarily put the lights in, but have the city come in and put whatever infrastructure. So in the future, it's already there. That was the one example that I was given.
I appreciate that, Kathleen. So we do typically have blank conduit that goes in with our projects for our ITS for signals, so that we could allow for those future elements. However, street lighting for us is pretty problematic as far as you imagine a more rural section or out on the urban growth area edges to actually install and then pay for, maintain, and like the bill for us would be pretty exorbitant, and it's just not part of what we do. We do put in, of course, lighting when we have areas where we can't meet the vertical curve requirements and we need additional light, you know, like a sag curve that's very deep and needs lighting for safety. We would certainly put that in, or we do light our marked crosswalks as well. That's a requirement. But as far as putting in and maintaining street light, it's an expense for us that has not really been considered as part of our infrastructure. So
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's an important part of this discussion, and that's why it is critical for annexation to take place, because, you know, and I get it, people are frustrated because immediately when annexation takes place, there are some tax increases that take place, but that's what those taxes go towards, is rural, or urban development standards and things like that. And we don't have the funding capacity to pay for those. So it illustrates a larger issue with annexation.
Yeah, I just wanted to, and I know I've shared this with council, but just for transparency and annexation discussions. So Lon is putting together a draft plan that is not committing the council to annexation. I want to make that clear. There has been no direction on that. The direction is to start having those discussions, but to look at how can our jurisdictions work together over the next year. And, you know, a lot of our department heads are already connecting with the department heads with the city, but to see what makes sense, look at code, look at efficiencies, because those are the experts. So that is a plan that may be coming forward, and I'll share it with council when I receive the draft on that. The other thing I also wanted to mention, you know, I agree that it's important to talk to the city when we're looking at these types of projects like 179th, but the decision was actually a policy decision from council to lift urban holdings. So that isn't like staff writing to the city and say, hey, how do you want to, you know, increase this? That was actually a council decision. So there may be opportunities for council to also engage with the city, because we can't dictate, you know, I don't think it's staff's role to go to the city and say, hey, what's your plan for this area when it's under council's purview. So just as a food for thought.
Great. Other questions from council? I had one question that you may not be able to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And that is related and great success on the grant front. But knowing that we're dependent on grants for a good portion of these projects, what of that funding could be vulnerable if we're not in compliance with the GMA?
As of right now, there are no implications or
Well, we're compliant at the moment.
yeah. But I'm saying the programs that we do have currently, if we weren't, we wouldn't be affected.
Okay.
It does affect us if we were to apply for a loan, for example, through the agency that handles that. That could potentially, but the grants themselves, as of right now, they could change. There's no
Okay, that's
requirement for the
great.
GMA compliance.
Fingers crossed going forward. And then I just want to acknowledge all your hard work on all of this. And I especially appreciate the outreach that the department has done with the community where some of these impacts are occurring. And just as I drive around my neighborhood, I've seen a great deal of work that has been done this past summer. So really appreciate all of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Chair, if I may speak to your question regarding the vulnerability of our grants, it does, more for transparency's sake, risks and unknowns. And speaking to that, you know, of course, we deal with unknowns all the time. At the project level, we've encountered like state listed plant species that have been like disruptors to some of our projects. The 6-PPD quinone discovery was a remarkable scientific discovery, and it had a pretty significant impact on our ability to deliver the programs that we had presented them before. That's added a lot to our timelines, which has contributed to our challenge to keep up in the corridor, because it just impacts our cadence in a way that it doesn't impact the cadence of development, especially those parcels that aren't encumbered by wetlands and whatnot. So, but we do have additionally, I think the DOT, US DOT has been a source of uncertainty as well with some of our grants, and I'm not aware of any of our specific grant programs being, you know, in the crosshairs at the moment, but there is kind of just ongoing uncertainty related to our federal project delivery. And I think a really good recent example is DOT earlier this month decertified all DBEs across the US, which has had kind of a really challenging impact on our ability and has to deliver those projects and jeopardize some of our federal aid projects, the ones that we have under kind of advertisement and award right now. So we work on navigating those as they come up. They put us in a little bit of a challenging position, but just adds to some of the challenges that we face. And we do leverage our road fund dollars significantly with grants, TIF, REIT. But we'd see the road fund trending towards a structural deficit, and it would take probably a couple years of inaction before we're in the same position as our peers in the parks program. But it is something that we want to remain mindful of. And we are having conversations now with what we see on the horizon to review what levers we have at our disposal to be good stewards of that funding. So one example is in 2026, we are foregoing one of our preservation treatments, the Cape Seal, that is typically an annual treatment. And part of that is because, like that earlier conversation, we can't leverage road fund dollars for preservation the same way we do for some of these urban improvements. We just don't, it's not inherently TIF eligible. And there aren't as many grant opportunities for preservation type work. So that is something that is on our radar, and we just want council to be mindful of, because deferred maintenance always comes with incurred long-term costs.
Okay, thank you for that perspective. And I would say, if as issues arise, that there may be some political action that the council could take, just keep us advised. Go ahead.
Just to add all the political questions, does the I-5 bridge rebuild or the funding sources impact any county roads or any of our projects in these plans?
I think, at risk of oversimplifying the response, only maybe indirectly. And I say that even kind of loosely. I think there might be a perception that state funding going to the bridge kind of addresses our region's needs. So it could potentially deplete some of the other asks that we might have around the county. But I can't draw a straight line connection to any losses that we've experienced related to the I-5 bridge. So I don't know if that answers your question directly or not.
And I would just say maybe to add a little detail to that, an indirect action might be once construction starts on IBR, what that resource makes available or doesn't make available to us for our local contractors. That could be an indirect impact that we would see as far as availability, which could affect some of our pricing once they're under construction.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could just maybe to put a little bit of a bow on what Jeremy was just sharing as far as funding, as far as trending towards anything, it's the 1% that helps us at least try to keep up with inflation and our cost increase. So I would just offer that directly as my comment to council. Thank you.
Great. It's a good comment, knowing that we're going into budget season here. So thank you all very much. Appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you, council.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have one more work session, but I would just ask the council if you'd like to take a quick 5-minute break.
Sure.
Okay,